Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee. I thought I'd take a little time right now to take a look at the longer range just a little bit. And we are looking here at the NAM model for the middle of the week here. This is Wednesday morning. And one of the things we're noticing that it's kind of a flat look across the United States. That is that we have this west to east flow that comes across from the Pacific Northwest, where it's going to continue to be rather cool. And there's an upper air disturbance and a upper low that's south of Lake Winnipeg that's kind of driving the flow, and then it turns southwestward toward James Bay and then swings around into eastern Canada, where it becomes northwest. Now to the south we have this, we'll call it the east-west heat ridge that runs from the southwestern part of the United States straight across to the southeast coast. But again, it's a west-east look. Now, with this troughing that's going on in the western part of the United States, a bit of a ridge builds here in the east. So that's going to allow, I think, for some warming later this week. But I don't really see anything too unusual with regards to that longer term. So when we look at the GFS model, now I'm going to start here on Sunday. We have one more disturbance to get through, this upper air disturbance that's moving across eastern Canada. Might trigger off another shower or two Sunday morning into early afternoon, but then after that we should see weather conditions improve nicely, and you can see that ridge building here in the eastern states as that troughing settles across much of the Pacific West and Northwest, and then on up into the northern plains. So we might wind up with some very warm weather toward the end of the week. However, once again, we start to see weakness here in the jet that begins to lower a bit into the Great Lakes. So that probably means some kind of cold front pushes through here on Friday. And then we stay in that westerly flow in the upper atmosphere, kind of just sits there just to our north into early next week. Now, it could get very warm for a couple of days here, but again, there's this tendency for weakness. So that's going to probably allow weather systems to try and move through from time to time, like we saw late this week with these shots for showers and thunderstorms as they go by. And then overall, as we move through the middle and start heading toward the latter part of the month, if the model's right, it wants to strengthen the ridge in the Rockies and create more troughing here in the east. So when we go through the entire GFS model run late this afternoon, it's hard for me to see how it could get hot for more than a couple of days before we get some kind of weather system to move on through. I want to just take a look at the European model for comparison, and same idea here with that ridge in the east, and you get a little bit of troughing, and then it tries to build that ridge strongly early on the week, beginning of the week of July 18th for a day or two. But again, you still have this northwest flow not that far away, so that's going to mean that weather fronts are going to be nearby to cool things off. So at least from the standpoint of what we've seen over the last couple of days with these three weather disturbances that have moved on through, each one of them produced their own rounds of showers and thunderstorms in different locations. I think this coming week is going to be a little calmer, which is good, and we're going to have at least some sunshine in play, which is even better. And let me just switch back to the GFS real quick so you can see what it does at the surface, and we'll put the precip on here. Now let me back it up because I'm on Tuesday, July 19th. But here's tonight into Sunday morning, and you still see there does produce some showers Sunday morning into the afternoon before high pressure builds in, sits overhead on Tuesday. So we'll start seeing temperatures warm up a little bit on Tuesday, and then a little bit more Wednesday into Thursday, and turning more humid. And then here comes a cold front that's going to move on through here with maybe some showers and storms late Thursday into Friday. And then it looks like it dries up, and we have warm weather but dry weather going into next weekend. So I'm fairly optimistic for the week going forward. We see no major storms in sight, and I think maybe we'll take this opportunity now. Let's go to the Western Atlantic, so maybe we can take a look at what the tropics are doing, because the Atlantic tropics have been fairly quiet. And as we back it up, we're going to run it through time, and now we're toward the end of next week. At least from the standpoint of the GFS, we see just sort of typical mid to late July mode in the tropics no organized systems seem to be shown. That doesn't mean that there won't be anything there, just that it doesn't seem to be picking up anything of consequence. And by the way, again, this would not be unusual. I want to just take a look at the highest levels of the atmosphere, because I'm going to I want to point out, and this is actually quite interesting as we go through the latter part of the period. One of the things that I've noticed compared to last year, when we had very strong winds in the tropical Atlantic for pretty much the entire season, thanks to the developing El Nino, it's a much different scenario as we go through time. The Gulf of Mexico to me really stands out, because the Gulf of Mexico was indicated all last summer and fall had very, very strong winds aloft at the highest levels of the atmosphere, 40, 50 knot winds, which prevents tropical storm development. But you can see these large areas of blue and white. This is low wind shear that's being indicated. So at least from the standpoint of how the broad tropics are setting up as we go into toward the end of July and the beginning of August, I think at some point we're probably going to see activity increase, and it's going to increase in a way that's going to be different from last year. So I don't think you're going to see systems getting sheared apart the way they were sheared apart. In fact, as we go through the end of the period, which is toward the end of the month of July, except for the central Caribbean, there's really light wind shear throughout much of the tropics. So that at least will, that's going to give some room for some tropical storm development. So have a good Sunday. Hopefully we'll have no worse than partly sunny skies to deal with. And it looks like severe weather is going to take a break for a few days until we move toward maybe the latter part of this coming week.